Oh my gosh, hello everyone. Welcome to Jolene's Happy Time Craftcast. I'm Joleen, and of course, I'm excited to welcome you to today's episode of the Happy Time Craftcast. So, quick announcement before we get started. Interesting things are happening in Minnesota, especially in the northern area of Minnesota where today's guest, Jamie, is from. She won't be able to join us because she's expecting 12 to 18 inches of snow and they've lost power. So I promise that if you were joining today to talk about knitting and hear more from Jamie, we will definitely have her back when she's got power. I mean, could you imagine 18 inches of snow? Like, I'm Minnesota born and raised, and that's a lot. That's an absolute lot. So you've got me today, and I have a plan. But before I get to all of that stuff, I want to do a quick update and let you know what's happening here at Big Raven Farm. So I've been working on a new, not necessarily a kit, but a new project. I'm going to be taking my gig on the road, as it were, and I'm going to be doing a couple of craft nights at local breweries. And I've been trying to think of a project that doesn't require a glue gun, that is easy enough to do in a couple of hours, but is also exciting enough and doesn't feel like a 5-minute craft. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not interested in that. I want to bring the public something, exciting and fun that they might not do anywhere else. So this is what I've come up with. And of course, it is made with repurposed bookboard. I'll bring it in close so you can see. It's my own pattern, so I'm very excited about that. And new to me this time too is adding some scallops. And the scallops that you see are also made out of bookboard. So this is going to be my brewery night project. And we're going to mount them on wood. We'll use recycled paper as the background. And of course, if folks want to paint it or add more embellishment, they sure can. But if you know me, and I know you do, I love to see the print and the pages from behind. And of course, I absolutely love this combination of repurposed bookboard that I've cut on my laser. So that's kind of fun. I'll be doing that at some local breweries. And I've also added it to the list of projects you can pick when you come to a Pick Your Projects retreat. In fact, it should already be there. So if you're going to join me at a Pick Your Projects retreat, you can pick this one as well. So I've been working on that. And then I also wanted to let you know that my Cyanotype and Eco print retreats are coming up in June and September. And I had one of our viewers ask for a little bit more information on what those retreats are about. So at the Cyanotype and Eco printing workshop, we we make a eco print book, and this one is, we go with a 6x6, and everything that you are seeing here in my book, these are prints that happen when we add our foliage to a great big vat and pot of rusty bits and vinegar, and we cook it out under a fire. And these are the prints that end up casting onto the paper. So you can see here how I have further embellished mine. I like to add watercolor. Sometimes I add a little poetry because I'm that kind of girl. And I love to kind of doodle on them and further add more embellishment. So this is what a page looks like. Let me find you a page that I haven't done anything to. Here. So this is an eco print, and I haven't embellished it yet. I haven't added any layers or depth or anything. This is just what it looks like when it comes out of the pot. My friend Barb actually taught me this technique, and since she's taught it to me a few years ago, I've just gone crazy and added and learned even more. But I'm so grateful to Barb for turning me on to this amazing process of eco printing. So this is the eco print book. So we're also gonna, bind it into a book, and we do a 6x6. At the last installments of this retreat, we also made a swatch book, and we use different kinds of papers. And I'm sorry I didn't have that pulled over. I should have. But here's the swatch book. So we started with a swatch book where we just tested how this eco printing would work on different substrates. So this one is my swatch book, and I have in here kind of my documentation of what my eco prints look like on printed papers. Look at that. I love this. You see this pink bit? This offset from another piece of paper when it was in the pot, like it cooked and it came off there. This is a restaurant napkin. So we used napkins, we used book paper, we used vellum and like 140-pound watercolor paper, 90-pound watercolor paper. This is banana paper, again, an idea from my friend Barb. Banana paper, like when you go to the grocery store and the bananas are wrapped in this brown paper, I'm sure it just gets thrown away, but I asked my local grocery store if they would keep it for me, and it makes these beautiful prints. That's the banana paper. And we did all kinds of stuff. So first we make a swatch book, and I'll teach you how to bind that into a book as well. So first we make the swatch book, so you have your record of what it is. And then we make our eco print book that you can embellish and work on. So it's really fun. We're outside a lot. We're cooking over an open fire. It's amazing. But while we're cooking and like kind of waiting for things, we also do cyanotypes. So one of my cyanotype projects is this tote bag. And these are all cyanotype prints. So this, of course, is a process where we take an emulsion, we put the emulsion on our substrate, and then you block the sun. So wherever you block the sun and the sun gets through, you're going to get a print. So these are just different bits of leaves and flowers from around my farm. And so we put those down over the emulsion, put it under UV light, and we can do it outside or inside because I also have UV lights in case we have bad weather. And then you do it for a series of minutes, and then you rinse it and you set it with hydrogen peroxide. So this is just one of the projects you can do at Eco Printing and Cyanotype. But thank you for asking what it's about. That's what it's about. And it's a really fun retreat. Like I said, we still have spots available at our Cyanotype Eco Printing in June and Cyanotype Eco Printing in September. But as you know, there's only 16 spots. And when they're gone, they're gone. So if you'd love to join me, I'd love to have you, like all of that. So thank you so much for letting me talk about that. Okay, so last week we were talking about one of my favorite books called Collage Masters. And my friend Lisa Lake, she actually went to try and find it, and I guess it's like super darn expensive now. Because back in the day when I bought mine was $25. So they're kind of hard to find right now, but if you can find it and if you have the patience, they are available. But we talked about this collage technique that was inspired by Robert Hunt. So what Robert does is he takes, I don't know if it's from, an original composition, and then he cuts it apart and makes it into a mosaic, or if it's an image from a magazine. I don't really know, but I promised that I would try it and report back to you on my results. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to switch my camera so that you can see it. Let's see. Extra camera, hold on. And I'm sure you can tell that I have a cold. I'm so sorry. I sound like Snuffleupagus here. All right, so let me add this to the stage. You can see my hands. I'm sorry about that, like in front of my face, but that cannot be avoided. All right, let's see if that does a little better. All right, so over here, this was my original image. Let's see if we can't. And it was like a student textbook, I think. And it was like a animal handler, and she's holding a cat of some kind. And so what I did was I used a scalpel and I cut all the pieces apart. Since it was my first time trying this technique, I didn't get super crazy. Like I kept like bigger pieces. And I thought that in my composition, I'm probably going to end up keeping her face, and I'm also going to keep her hand. Just because I don't have the confidence to try the faces yet. So I thought I'd keep the face. Okay. So I cut all those pieces apart. And then I went through my collection of painted papers and tried to put her back together again. So what I'm going to do, and I don't know if it's necessary, it's just my process. I don't really feel confident about putting my cut pieces into my art journal without first kind of testing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a garbage piece of paper, and of course I'm going to use something to glue on. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to put my puzzle back together over on this side. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to use a brush and matte medium. Hello, everybody. How are you today? It's nice to see you in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me and forgiving me for my cold. Today we're doing a demo because Jamie is getting 12 to 18 inches, excuse me, of snow. All right, so I'm going to use an acrylic matte medium so that I don't have to like fuss with a glue stick. And also I want this to be pretty saucy and juicy so that it sticks to my paper. All right, so this is her arm, and I know that this goes over here pretty much. And I'm going to stick that down. See with that matte medium what good, like I got good grip. Can you see that? Let me get you closer. That matte medium, boy, that does the job. If you can wait, right, for it to dry because it's so wet. So it doesn't always work in our art journals because it's just a little bit too saucy. But for what I'm doing here, I think it's going to work great. So then I selected this painted paper. And when I cut it with my scalpel, I mean, I did pretty good getting those pieces to line up. So this one goes next. And again, I've already got my wet adhesive over to the side. I'm working on top of a garbage piece of paper that I'm going to cut apart when we're done. So this guy goes here. It reminds me, like, it's kind of like putting together a puzzle and doing like an English paper piecing almost, if you're familiar with that from quilting. So I know this is the edge. I'm going to call that good. That's pretty good. I don't really want a gap, so I'm going to move it over just a bit. And because I'm in control, I can cut off. Like if I made the blue piece a little bit too big, I can certainly cut that stuff off. With my matte medium sitting just at the top here, I can keep gathering some and pulling it back down over my composition. All right, the other piece that I have is the rest of her shirt. And I cut it out of that same piece of painted paper. And that guy goes right in here. And, you know, in our inspiration, like if you recall, that one had a whole lot of pattern and a whole lot of color. This is my first try, so I would say that I came at this pretty conservatively. All right, this piece has confused me a number of times, but I think it goes here. Yep, it goes down here. And then because I kept her face, I also kept her hand. So this goes down here. I'm really lucking out that my painted papers are not smearing with the use of this gel medium. So don't be like me. You're going to want to test this before you use a gloss medium or a matte medium on top of your painted papers. So these painted papers are really old, but I didn't test it. So I'm really lucky that I'm not just making a smeary mess. So test them first. Do as I say, not as I do, because I was really kind of dumb. It could have been a total disaster. See right here, this bit is bigger down here on the blue and the red, but I'm in charge of the scissors, so I can just chop that off. All right, then I kept her hand, and this is where her hand, so like this was This was her sleeve. So I don't know if that makes any kind of sense. I don't know. I'm overthinking it, but that's where that's going to go. That's her hand. Okay. Now we get to the harder part, which is her hair. And I'm not really sure how her head connects to her body. So let's just see what we get. Okay. So I cut her hair out of different pieces of painted paper. And I don't know what we should connect first. Maybe, I think this, I have kind of a good feeling about this. I don't know. We're just going to go with it. All right, I'm going to put her head. I should have taken a picture. There's another thing. Do as I say, not as I do. Take a picture of your original composition before you cut it apart. But I feel like, I'm going to go by feel. I feel like this might be correct. Not sure. And then we have this piece of hair. And that clearly goes here. Here, maybe. We'll get that out of her mouth. Yep. Okay. I got a little bit of a gap. I don't want that. I don't want a gap between her head. But let's see what we could do. We could probably fill that in like with a marker or something. See, I got a little bit of a gap between her hair. Come on, girly. Okay. All right. Not too shabby. All right. All right. That works. And then I cut a lighter strip. I think these are maybe tea dyed papers. That goes there. And then I did another darker piece. That goes there. So I think, friends, all in all, a relative success, maybe. That goes there. And then I had one extra piece. I don't know what this is. Like it's hair somewhere, but I don't know where it goes. So I think maybe the page ended. I don't know what this is. Maybe it was more. Oh, maybe it's this. Oh, shading? I don't know. I don't think it goes here. You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to put it here. And then I'm going to cut off that edge. That's my plan. Alrighty. Okay. All right. So not too shabby as a technique. I dig it. I like it. I like it. So what I would do, right, if I would let this all dry, because I don't want to take my scalpel or my scissors through that. And then I'm going to add it to my art journal. So I just looked through my art journal, tried to find something that was complementary, but yet had a little bit of contrast. And so I picked this page. There we go. So, and in this, I have done a few techniques. I've collage with background paper, and then I have done some paint squirting, and then you tip your paper so that it drips and runs. I believe I also probably used a credit card and did a credit card wash to move my paint around. And then when I chop her out, she's going to go here. And I would say that, you know, if we look back at our inspiration piece from the artist, was it Hunt, Peter Hunt? I think that's what I said. Do you remember? I would say that as a technique, I'm really, really glad I tried it. And I want to try it some more. Yeah, Robert Hunt, excuse me. So Robert takes a few more risks and adds shading and uses not just painted papers, but also different textures. And so, I mean, I love it as a technique that I would love to try. I'm not as, I don't take as many risks as he does, but that's the idea of putting our own spin on the things that we find inspiration from. So I'm going to let that dry, and hopefully in just a few moments we're gonna cut that out and we will do it together. So I thought it might be kind of fun if we were to try this together and pick out some papers and do this Robert Hunt technique. And I was organized. I promise I have an image for us to cut out, and it's right, oh, for goodness sakes, it's on the floor. I don't know where it is. Okay, well, here's another one. You want to try this guy? So what I like about this particular image is I like that when we cut this out, we're definitely going to know that this is a silhouette or a man or a person, right? So we're going to take our image and then use whatever you like to use. I'm actually pretty partial to a scalpel. I like a scalpel better than an X-Acto knife for some reason. And what I like to do is I hold down what I'm cutting out and I turn my image and my knife. So when I get here, I'm going to turn the image and I just kind of keep my scalpel going in one place, right? So if you haven't played around with a scalpel or an X-Acto knife, it can be pretty satisfying. You of course need a self-healing mat, which is what I work on. And because I work on a self-healing mat, I can just kind of do this anytime I want because I'm always set up for it. But you'll notice I move the paper and my scalpel at the same time. And then we can just pop him out from his background. Now, does it matter that I didn't get exactly nice and tight over here on the side of his face? No, not really. Because if we're going to do this Robert Hunt collage idea, the idea is that we are going to chop this up into manageable parts, and we're also going to use him in manageable parts. So since I don't really want to do the kind of wild face, what I am going to do is I'm going to cut out his face, and I'm probably going to keep that and put it back into my composition because that's kind of like the Joleen way of doing this. So I'm going to keep that. That's going to go back into the composition. And then I'm going to cut his suit apart. So this is going to be a chunk. And this is going to be a chunk right here. All right. And then we get to decide. What do you think, friends? Do you think that this should be chunks or should we keep those solid? The name of that book, my sweet whimsy, was Masters of Collage. It's a great book. I highly, highly recommend. Kind of hard to find right now. Not impossible to find, but hard to find. And it's called Major Works by Leading Artists, Masters of Collage. And I wonder if this is it might be a it's been curated by Randall Plowman. So it's a curation of things and doesn't like just have one author. But you can tell that this is one that I go to a lot. And like we're doing now, take an idea, find what you like, and then turn it into your own. So that's what we're doing here. Okay. So I don't know. I kind of feel like those are enough pieces for me. And maybe we can have just a little bit more fun with his background. So let's go like this, just make some chunks. And you can obviously tell, no surprise, that I'm not the biggest risk taker when it comes to color and composition. I kind of like to keep things simple. Now, I do have an organization idea for you, and you probably already do it, but this is what I do if this helps you. So in my collection of stuff, I keep just one container of painted papers. I put all of my painted papers in here because it just makes my life a little bit simpler when I am going on the hunt and I'm looking to collect something. So before we choose our painted papers, I should probably figure out where my destination is in one of my art journals. So I'm just going to grab a signature off my shelf. And again, friends, this is my process. This is how I do it. I keep my signatures ready to go. And Sometimes I have prepared backgrounds. Sometimes I have a blank background. It just always kind of depends. So here we go. I've got a blank background in my art journal. So we have a destination. So our destination is going to be this background where it's just a reclaimed piece of book paper. Okay. So I'm thinking higher contrast is going to work well here. And we're going to keep this dude's face. So we're keeping the face. And so now we get to pick out, we're doing the color of his suit, and then we'll do the color of his background. All right, because he was kind of in a little shadow effect there. So this is how it all goes back together. And we are replacing the surround pieces. Alrighty. So keeping the face, and now we get to, it's just 3 little pieces. So we're going to pick out those pieces. And I feel high contrast is probably going to work the best. So I'm going to set him to the side, and I'm going to just show you my collection of painted papers. So these papers are cast off jelly plate prints. I swear to goodness, I don't ever throw anything away. Things that I'm trying or testing, or they were left over from something. Some of them might be a little too wild or bold. These are, again, tests on technique. I like to definitely give it a try before I encourage anyone else to do it. This is all on like a heavier pound watercolor paper. So for collage, those aren't necessarily my favorite papers to use. They're just way too heavy. So we want to find like a painted jelly paper or a painted copy paper, something kind of light that's going to collage really well. So now we're getting into some more interesting substrates of painted paper. I think that's kind of awesome. Again, it's pretty high contrast to that background. We have some blue. This is kind of wild. I also appreciate this yellow and blue. Like I said, these are from when I've been jelly plate printing. And even if you can see I have a problem, right? I use a little bit and I still keep it. That's kind of ridiculous. That aqua is nice. I like the pink. The pink is kind of awesome. I also love pink and orange. I think that's kind of a cool piece. All right. I think that's given me enough to kind of get started, don't you? I like that blue as like a high contrast, or maybe even this guy. Okay, that's enough, right? There has to be a point at which you say enough digging through all of your stuff and just make a decision, right? Because I could do that forever and ever. All right, so this is what we're picking out. We're picking out his suit. So it might be that chunk and that chunk. But I'm really kind of attracted to the pink, even though the pink is just kind of ending up to be like a little bit of pink and blue. But my heart is telling me he's wearing a pink suit and maybe like an orangish tie. I don't know. So this is what I'm going to try. These are my pieces, and this one was stuck together. So we go back to, now you could trace this out for sure if you felt a little bit more comfortable doing that. I'm just going to hold it and cut it, right? Because again, have you ever heard somebody say about collage, you ruin it when you overthink it? So like if you get too deep in your head and you overthink it, collage stops being fun and it starts becoming work. And I really identify with that. So my process is I like to just grab and just see what I get. And I gotta be honest, I don't always get a win from that. And I sometimes get really frustrated. But that's how I like to do it. Okay, that part of his suit is super cute. All right, so we did that piece. I think the hardest part is not losing your pieces. Here's the other side of his suit. And I don't know why there are holes in this paper, but that's also kind of cool. Can you see that? Who knows what I was doing? I'm probably too far away for you to see it, but I don't know what was up. But there are like these tiny little pinholes in this paper. So I like this chunk. So we're going to take that for him and his suit. So grab and go. That is the advice of the day, and try not to overthink it because you want it to be fun. So I'm having a harder time spinning the paper because this is really, really old book paper and it's super fragile. So sometimes my techniques don't always work with the type of paper that you're using. Okay, that's cute. All right, so here he is, and his head, I think, goes here. I'm not sure. That's awesome. Let's do his tie. Fabulous. Like I said, I love orange. How did that thing go together? Again, I should have taken a picture of it. I like this. I like this right here. I like the orange. I also like the text behind it. I think that's really cool. So that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to cut this out. And again, you could trace it. I'm also going, something I learned already in that first one is that if you go a little bit wider than the actual piece, I can tuck this underneath the side pieces instead of having it fit right in nice and tight. So I'm going just a little bit wider, maybe a lot wider in that case. But they don't have to fit exactly. When you go a little bit bigger, we can tuck it underneath, and I think it just might make it a little bit neater. All right, so here's my dude. Oh my gosh, I love my dude. I'm very happy with him. All right, there's his head. There's his tie, maybe. There's his suit. Shkadunk. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. Here's his face. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Now, because he's fewer pieces, I do think I would feel more confident just going directly into my art journal and not messing around with this an intermediary piece of paper. Now, I've changed my mind about something. So remember, I cut him out of a background, and I thought I was going to put that background in, but after looking at it, I've kind of decided I don't want to do that. I think instead he's looking down at something maybe, or maybe there is something behind him, like a big circle. I dropped a circle on the floor. What's that circle about? Oh, it's a frog. But my composition eye sees, kind of something like that. More contrast, of course. But he's started, and I love it. I love it. So thank you, Mr. Hunt, because that's a super cool idea. So I'm not going to stick him down right now, but I am going to go back. This one has dried a little bit. She's still a little bit tacky. So I'm going to use one of a garbage scissors here. Well, maybe not. Let's cut her out. Let's cut her out. I think this will probably be better on my tools. So we're going to cut her out from the side there. And again, I just used some garbage paper because I didn't really trust myself going directly into my art journal, and I wasn't really sure what kind of a mess that would make. So you could definitely skip this step if you wanted to, but as I'm just kind of figuring it out and learning it, I felt that was the better way to go for me. So using a scalpel on this notebook paper, boy, it just it's coming apart like butter. It's still really wet in there. I'm going to try it, but I might just end up ripping the paper. Oof, 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 oof. So I'm not even really pulling very much. I'm just trying to guide it around. Boop. There we go. Feeling not as confident about these tighter spaces. Yeah, see how I'm just mushing the paper because it's still really wet. That's okay though. I'll probably be able to scratch it away too if it's bothering me too much. I'm more worried about her face. Ugh! I don't want to mess up her face. Oops. Again, do as I say, not as I do. This was too wet to cut. I'm just impatient. Let's get it out of there. Okay. I'm going to wait on that bit until it's just a little bit drier because I'm just like really mangling it. But it's going to come apart great once that glue is dry. So I'm going to go back to my prepared art journal, right? And look at this. Whiz bang a boom. That's so cool. And again, right, like whatever you do in your art journals, if you have a sentiment or some writing or like something you want to add, but I do love the process. That's what she looks like on blue. There she is on kind of purpley pinky stuff. She's got great contrast when she's against just book paper. There's some drippy paper, some collage paper. Nice. I like it. I like the technique. I will follow back up and let you know how that goes when I do more with her. But again, the Collage Masters book is where I got the inspiration from. Peter Hunt was the Robert Hunt was the artist who inspired me to try that technique. And let me know if you do it. In fact, goodness sakes, show me your results. I'm so curious. I can't wait, right, to see how we're all inspired by that. All right, the next thing that I would like to talk about is I would like to talk about another book. I made this assumption that like everybody knows these things, but I don't think I should assume that. So this book is called 101 Mixed Media Techniques. Again, it's been in my library for a while. It has been in there because I've been an artist for a long time, right? So, and I love collecting resources and inspiration pieces like this. And so this one is it's by a whole bunch of people. Isaac Anderson, Cheryl Doty, Samantha Kira Harding, Jennifer McCulley, Suzette Rosenthal, and Linda Robertson Womack. So it is from Walter Foster, 101 Mixed Media Techniques. I was just looking for a copyright date. I don't see it quickly. 2014. 2014. Okay. So what I love about this book is when I was going through my painted papers and I was showing you some of my test pieces, that's from this book. So it'll say, like, let's just paint a background. Let's try dry brushing. Let's try scraping. Let's try painting with a brayer or a roller. Let's try different washes. Let's try gessos and mediums. Let's try paint drips or using glass bead gel. My craft club used glass bead gel in a project recently, and I would say we all recently, it was like 2 years ago. I would say we all pretty much really liked it. So in this spiral bound notebook, I love that you can open it to any page and it's going to give you an idea to try. Not so much a completed project, like that's not really what this book is about. This book is more about like getting familiar with different kinds of techniques. Like, let's use letters and numbers. Let's use these old stencils or like stuff you have from back in the scrapbooking days. Like if you've kept all of that stuff like I have, there are image transfers. There are things that you can do, different suggestions for printing on canvas, coloring in black and white, altering photographs, lots of things with, I mean, like it says, 101 different ideas. So this is a very good resource. Now, some of this stuff you might already know in your journey as an art journaler or a collager. But if you are just getting started and you're just like, oh my gosh, there are so many things I could do, this one is a pretty handy resource. I love it too for when I'm getting stuck. So like one of the ideas in here is taking a prepared journal page, taking a stencil and coming over top of it either with paint or with a medium. So, and what that can do is it can add some continuity. So in preparation for today, I did it here. So I did a scraped background with paint and gesso I did a collage with book paper. And one of the fun things about collage and art journaling for me is just creating all the layers. Then I took a stencil and I skipped the middle bit here, thinking that maybe that'll be a focal point or something. And I just tapped it on with a sponge. And so I've created some continuity using my stencil. You can also use your stencils and a texture paste or a sculpting medium so that you get like a little bit of a raised element. I'm trying to see here if I have an example of that in my journal. Not in this journal, but let me think if I have it close. I've done it in some. Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves for 2 seconds. It would be right here. If you're wondering how many art journals I have, the answer is it's dumb and it's so many. Let's see. All right, so here's an idea that I got from that book. And the idea was working with letters, large letters. So I did that. This is an image transfer where I used the lady that's on top of a pattern. Here I stamped on tissue paper. So sometimes the idea is just adding all of them and putting them together. It's hard to see here, but right here, do you see this blue turquoise bit? There I used texture paste and a stencil and I washed over it. So I was able to create lots of depth and dimension. So it's a fun book. It's a super fun book. And I think too, like, as I've said lots of times, remind yourself that sometimes we just have to learn about technique before we start getting worried about outcome, right? So get a few techniques down, a few things that you love to do. Here's another one of my spreads. So this is an image transfer. And this image transfer idea came from 101 mixed media techniques, but then I figured out a way to do it even better. So if you struggle with image transfer, what has worked the best for me has been to print with a laser printer and then print it like 2 or 3 times so that you are getting a lot of toner on that piece of paper. Then you are going to cover your image with Mod Podge and you're going to let it dry, and you're going to do that a couple of times. Then when you go to image transfer and put it in your book, Mod Podge goes down on your surface. Then you're going to press in this laser printed image a few times. You're going to put a brayer on it, and then you're going to let it dry. You're going to let it dry, and then you add water. When you add water to that dry image, you're just removing the backing of the paper, and you're leaving the ink or the toner. So I could do a whole hour talking just about image transfer, but that's what has worked for me. And I love image transfer when it works, right? When it doesn't work, it can be just a scotch heartbreaking. But when you get it to work, it's pretty fantastic. So again, the book is 101 mixed media techniques, spiral bound so that you can just open it and try one out. And this one is put together by Walter Foster, is the publisher. When I purchased it in 2014, it was $19.95. So I don't know, maybe you can find it on eBay or something. I'm not sure for sure. But I do love that book. So in the Joleen scale, it's really a 10 out of 10. Like, I learn something new every time I pick that thing up, and I hope you do too. So, all right. So let's go back to my lady and see if she is just any drier so that I can chop around her face. And she might not be, friends, because I put her back in my book and I closed it. So, yeah. And if it's still a little damp, like, be wise and don't use your scalpel or your X-Acto knife and just use a scissors. So she's still just a little bit too wet. All right. Next episode, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how I decided to use her, where I put her, and what that looks like. Okay. So before we wrap up for today, let me just quickly check our comments, see if there are any questions. Karen checked out thrift books for older books. Karen, that is such a good idea. Thrift books, eBay. Where else could we check if you got ideas for these older ones? Um, Sometimes I find them on Amazon too, where people are selling used issues of them. I get a lot of my reference materials used, actually. I kind of like it when people write in them and they've like had a little bit of a journey before they get to me. So I buy used books all the time, and you can get them for like $2.99 in some cases. All right, let me go back to our comments and see if there's anything that I missed. Lots of questions for Jamie, and hopefully she'll be fine after this big snowstorm that she's in. All right. Well, I do need to tell you about our next episode. My next guest is Marianne Rice, and she'll be with me on the 25th, which is already next week. She is from Southwest Wisconsin, and she's a painter and a portrait artist known for contemporary representational portraits that capture both likeness and the essence of the human spirit. She's a member of the Oil Painters of America and the Portrait Society of America. She exhibits nationally, and she is one of the thought leaders among those within the portrait community. So that's really exciting. A skill set that I do not have at all. So I'm very excited to have Marianne on the Happy Time Craftcast next week, where you are so welcome. Oh my gosh, look at this sweet little message. I learned so much from you. Thank you. Sweet Whimsy, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Jolene's Happy Time Craftcast. I hope you'll join me next week, where my guest is Marianne Rice. And please do all the things. Do the like, do the subscribe. Tell people about the Happy Time Craftcast, because it just helps us get the word out and do more in the space of keeping people all kinds of happy when they're crafting. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. And until I see you again, I hope you are all kinds of happy in all kinds of ways. See you soon.